across the steady ground. Open weave, receiving every sound. Threads arranged in measured crossing lines. Open weave, where even space and shines. Open weave, the pattern holds its place. Open weave, through all that open space. Pattern through the air, even crossing there. Threads of pale and amber running level from the edge. Warp lines holding steady at the measured even ledge. Weft lines moving softly through the open crossing space. Nothing breaking outward from the common ordered face. Fibers touching lightly where the intersections form. Surface tension spreading in a quiet measured norm. Distance between threads arrives at even counted beat. Regular repeating where the crossing lines all meet. Pale threads extending outward from the settled centered ground. Crossing over gently without carrying a sound. Texture emerging slowly as the surface fills with line. Nothing sharp or sudden in the soft repeating sign. Warmth within the crossing where the threads make contact here. Amber light across the pattern, soft and open clear. Structured without weight upon the steady resting plane. Open crossing outward through the quiet woven lane. Even threads across the floor. Pattern settling more and more. Open weave across the steady ground. Open weave, receiving every sound. Threads arranged in measured crossing lines. Open weave, where even space and shines. Open weave, the pattern holds its place. Open weave, through all that open space. Crossing points appear at regular and even spread. Nothing drifting out of rhythm through the settled thread. Surface of the weave holds flat beneath the even light. Pale and amber tones arriving soft and not too bright. War holds vertical and steady from the upper edge. Weft arrives in horizontal from the open ledge. Intersections multiply across the measured ground. Nothing accelerates or rises from the measured sound. Tension at the crossing remains even and the same. Nothing breaks the order from the weaving measured frame. Fibers running outward with no variation there. Only soft continuation filling all the air. Light falls flat across the open surface of the plane. Weave receives it evenly throughout the steady lane. Thread by thread the pattern fills the wide and level fields. Nothing sharp or abrupt in what the weave will yield. Even threads across the floor. Pattern settling more and more. Open weave across the steady ground. Open weave, receiving every sound. Threads arranged in measured crossing lines. Open weave, where even space and shines. Open weave, the pattern holds its place. Open weave, through all that open space. Warp and weft in equal measure. Crossing points at even spacing. Nothing rising sharp or sudden. Only thread on thread replacing. Surface settles into stillness. Fibers finding quiet resting. Pattern held without disruption. Open weave through all the crossing. Open weave across the steady ground. Open weave, receiving every sound. Threads arranged in measured crossing lines. Open weave, where even space and shines. Open weave, the pattern holds its place. Open weave, the quiet measured pace. Threads continuing across the open space. Open weave, open weave, open weave. Threads still crossing. Pattern still holding. Threads suspended vertically from edge to edge in line. Held in and place at equal distance through the steady shine. Nothing swaying from the measured and the settled hang. Vertical lines arriving at the same arranged span. Pale and neutral color through the length of every thread. Nothing shifting weight or angle from the even spread. Distance held between them at the same repeated space. Still threads filling in the flat and level resting place. Threads held flat and quiet. Nothing pulls the line. Still threads arranged in quiet suspension. Still threads without event or tension, hanging in the measured open air. Still threads filling everywhere. Still threads in the pale and level field. Still threads, the pattern quietly revealed. Nothing moves the line. Threads in steady time. Vertical arrangement of the thread from top to base. Nothing drifting outward from the measured hanging space. Light falls flat across each thread without creating shade. Only soft reflection from the even thread displayed. Threads are pale and neutral from the topmost measured line, descending without variance through the ordered vine. Each thread separate from the next at equal counted gaps. Still and even through the settled hanging overlap. Threads suspended vertically from edge to edge in line, held in place at equal distance through the steady shine. Nothing swaying from the measured and the settled hang. Vertical lines arriving at the same arranged span. Pale and neutral color through the length of every thread. Nothing shifting weight or angle from the even spread. Distance held between them at the same repeated space. Still threads filling in the flat and level resting place. Threads held flat and quiet. Nothing pulls the line. Still threads arranged in quiet suspension. Still threads without event or tension, hanging in the measured open air. Still threads filling everywhere. Still threads in the pale and level field. Still threads, the pattern quietly revealed. Light moves slowly across the surface of each thread, illuminating evenly from the measured spread. Nothing concentrates or pulls into a brighter spot. Same light arriving everywhere without a brighter dot. Tension in the threads remains at equal settled state. Nothing pulling harder from the lower or the late. Still threads through the full extent of height and level plane. Measured spacing constant through the hanging even lane. Pale threads reaching downward from the top in ordered line. Nothing twisting outward from the even measured vine. Threads receive the light at the same angle every time. Nothing brightening or dimming from the even climb. Distance between threads maintains the steady counted space. Nothing narrowing or widening from the measured place. Still threads in the quiet of the settled hanging air, even and unchanged throughout the surface everywhere. Threads held flat and quiet. Nothing pulls the line. Still threads arranged in quiet suspension. Still threads without edge or tension, hanging in the measured open air. Still threads filling everywhere. Still threads in the pale and level field. Still threads, the pattern quietly revealed. Threads receiving light without event. Vertical and measured placement. Nothing breaks the quiet hanging. Still threads through the open statement. Each thread holding in its spacing. Nothing shifts or comes undone. Still threads to the flat horizon, even under quiet sun. Still threads arranged in quiet suspension. Still threads without event or tension, hanging in the measured open air. Still threads everywhere. through the quiet, still thread, still thread, still hanging. Nothing shifts the line. Cotton arrives in soft layers, nothing pressing against the grain. Soft cotton settling without weight, soft cotton arriving calm and late. Fibers loose across the open ground, soft cotton receiving every sound. Soft cotton filling air. Soft cotton through the open everywhere. Weight released in air, cotton settling there. Fibers gather loosely at the rounded edge of pile, nothing compressed or weighted past the soft and settled mile. Cotton surface holding with the touch of minimal force, pale and gentle texture running its unhurried course. Warmth retained without the layer drawing on the skin, soft resistance meeting every contact from within. Nothing sharp or angular within the gathered spread, only rounded fibers through the pale and soft ahead. Cotton gathered in its own loose structure from the base, nothing ordered tightly in the soft and open space. Warmth within the gathering without the heat of weight, fibers resting individually at the lowest state. Pale and amber tones within the depths of cotton spread, nothing uniform or even through the loose ahead. Soft cotton receiving the impression without hold, fibers releasing back to their original saddle form. Cotton arrives in soft layers, nothing pressing against the grain. Soft cotton settling without weight, soft cotton arriving calm and late. Fibers loose across the open ground, soft cotton receiving every sound. Soft cotton filling air. Soft cotton through the open everywhere. Surface of the cotton yields without resistance met, nothing firm beneath the first impression. Through the net, light falls into the fibers at a diffuse angle there, spreading through the cotton into all the quiet air. Nothing reflects directly from the soft and open pile, only scattered light through cotton's open unhurried mile. Warmth contained within the gathered depth without release, soft cotton holding gently through the settled quiet peace. Fibers crossing over loosely in the pile's gathered mass, nothing into laughter woven as the moments pass. Cotton power receiving every pressure and releasing, soft and slow returning to its shape without decreasing. Pale and quiet color through the full depth of the spread, nothing brightening or dimming from the surface overhead. Warm and round and without sharpness through the gathered air. Soft cotton spreading softly through the everywhere. Cotton arrives in soft layers, nothing pressing against the grain. Soft cotton settling without weight, soft cotton arriving calm and late. Fibers loose across the open ground, soft cotton receiving every sound. Soft cotton filling air. Soft cotton through the open everywhere. Fibers holding without structure, weight released into the open. Cotton surface without sharpness, nothing pressed and nothing broken. Soft resistance at the contact, nothing firm beneath the surface. Cotton spreading, cotton settling, soft cotton through the quiet purchase. Soft cotton settling without weight, soft cotton arriving calm and late. Fibers loose across the open ground, soft cotton receiving open everywhere. Fibers, quiet and without weight. Soft cotton, soft cotton, soft cotton light. Fibers still settling. Cotton still soft. Clear linen, where the light moves through. Clear linen, pale and quiet too. Surface pressed and even without seam. Clear linen, through the quiet steady stream. Clear linen, where the grain runs even. Clear linen, soft and open even. Light through pale cloth. Even quiet path. Light arrives at linen and continues through the grain. Nothing stopping at the surface of the pressed and plain. Warp and weft compressed together at the ironed face. Every thread laid flat within the pressed and even space. Pale translucent surface of the linen held to light. Nothing blocked or shadowed in the soft and even white. Grain of cloth runs horizontal in the settled plane. Nothing varying in the texture of the even lane. Threads compressed together at the surface of the cloth. Nothing raised above the level face of even cloth. Light passing through the grain at a consistent angle here. Nothing concentrated into areas more clear. Warmth within the pressing from the iron surface stayed. Flat and even linen at the measured level rate. Pale and quiet color through the full extent of plain. Clear linen through the pressed and open quiet lane. Light moves through the cloth, even and uncaught. Clear linen, where the light moves through. Clear linen, pale and quiet too. Surface pressed and even without seam. Clear linen, through the quiet steady stream. Clear linen, where the grain runs even. Clear linen, soft and open even. Texture of the linen at the surface finely drawn. Nothing rough or variable from the pressed and worn. Threads of pale and neutral at the surface of the cloth. Nothing raised or uneven through the measured cloth. Crease released through pressing from the ironed even face. Nothing remaining wrinkled in the flattened open space. Surface of the linen holds the light and even spread. Nothing pooling brighter in the pale and quiet ahead. Light continues through the grain of linen level held. Nothing bent or scattered where the cloth is gently swelled. Transparent quality of linen at the thinnest thread. Diffuse light arriving at the pale and open spread. Warmth of pressing still remaining in the settled cloth. Flat and even cooling at the surface of the cloth. Pale green running outward from the center of the plane. Clear linen through the open and even quiet lane. Light moves through the cloth, even and uncaught. Clear linen, where the light moves through. Clear linen, pale and quiet too. Surface pressed and even without seam. Clear linen, through the quiet steady stream. Clear linen, where the grain runs even. Clear linen, soft and open even. Grain of cloth and measured running light arriving through the surface that's pressed flat without exception. Linen holding at the purchase. Clear and pale without gradation. Nothing pooling, nothing peeking. Clear linen, quiet surface, even cloth through all the seeking. Clear linen, where the light moves through. Clear linen, pale and quiet too. Surface pressed and even without seam. Clear linen, through the quiet steady stream. Clear linen, where the grain runs even. Clear linen, soft and open even. Light continuing through the grain. Clear linen again. Cloth still pressed, light still moving through. Hmm. resting plane. Patches held in quiet at the measured joint domain. Warmth within the depth of quilted layers without weight. Stitching at the border of each square at measured rate. Wide across the surface from the edge to further edge. Wide quilt, resting level at the settled quiet ledge. Patches at the border. Stitching holds the order. Wide quilt across the open settled floor. Wide quilt receiving every measured more. Patches joining quiet steady row. Wide quilt in the even glow. Wide quilt, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilt, spreading out. Patch on patch through the spread. Even stitching held ahead. Squares of pale and amber laid in order on the plane. Nothing overlapping from the stitched and bordered lane. Patches sewn together at the border of each edge. Flat and even meeting at the measured quiet ledge. Warmth within the layers of the quilted gathered depth. Nothing pressing upward from the settled quiet breath. Wide across the level from the left to distant right. Quilt receiving all the flat and measured. Settled white. Quilt extending outward from the center of the spread. Squares of color meeting at the sewn and bordered thread. Nothing shifting from the flat and level resting plane. Patches held in quiet at the measured joint domain. Warmth within the depth of quilted layers without weight. Stitching at the border of each square at measured rate. Wide across the surface from the edge to further edge. Wide quilt resting level at the settled quiet ledge. Patches at the border. Stitching holds the order. Wide quilt across the open settled floor. Wide quilt receiving every measure more. Patches joining quiet steady row. Wide quilt in the even glow. Wide quilt, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilt, spreading out. Stitching line between the squares arrives at equal width. Nothing varying in the spacing of the sewn through stitch. Pale and warm and amber through the patches on the plane. Nothing brighter than the even settled measure. Main surface of the quilt yields slightly at the gathered depth. Nothing hard beneath the soft and layered quilted breath. Squares arriving endlessly in ordered measured spread. Wide quilt through the surface from the front onto the head. Warm tones through the patches of the wide and even spread. Nothing cooler breaking from the amber settled thread. Stitching at the border holds each patch in quiet frame. Nothing coming loose or drifting from the bordered plane. Layers within the quilt remain at settled even depth. Nothing shifting upward through the quiet measured breadth. Wide from edge to edge across the full and level plane. Wide quilt open, settled through the measured quiet lane. Patches at the border. Stitching holds the order. Wide quilt across the open settled floor. Wide quilt receiving every measured more. patches join in quiet steady row. Wide quilt in the even glow. Wide quilt, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilt, spreading out and out. Patches open, patches warm and pale. Wide quilt through the quiet veil. Patches still meeting, quilt still spread. Stitch arriving at the measured even count from start. Nothing varying in the space, another stitching art. Thread pulled through the fabric at the same consistent depth. Even stitch through every measured quiet settled breath. Pale thread running through the surface of the open cloth. Nothing thicker or uneven in the counted cloth. Stitching at the same repeated interval throughout. Nothing drifting from the measured even quiet count. Stitch at measured spacing, thread at even placing. Even stitch through all the open ground. Even stitch receiving all the sound. Thread and measured distance every place. Even stitch through all the space. Even stitch, the pattern holds the line. Even stitch through all the even shine. Thread and measured space, even quiet pace. Rows of stitching running parallel across the plane. Nothing veering from the measured in the settled lane. Each row identical in spacing to the row before. Thread arriving at the same position as the floor. Pale and neutral thread throughout the surface of the spread. Nothing brighter or more prominent in the even thread. Even stitch from edge to edge across the measured field. Nothing varying in the pattern that the stitches yield. Stitch at measured spacing, thread at even placing. Even stitch through all the open ground. Even stitch receiving all the sound. Thread at measured distance every place. Even stitch through all the space. Even stitch, the pattern holds the line. Even stitch through all the even shine. Depth of thread below the surface stays a constant here. Nothing pulling deeper in a spot that is more clear. Even tension at the thread throughout the stitching run. Nothing tighter from the halfway or the nearly done. Stitch arriving from the measured needle at the face. Coming through the same point from the underside with grace. Pale thread through the surface and return below in line. Even stitch continuing through all the measured shine. Length of each stitch matches to the length of every other. Nothing shorter or extending further than the other. Thread through cloth at consistent angle top to base. Nothing slanting from the measured and the even place. Pale thread of the stitching holds its color through the run. Nothing fading from the start until the line is done. Even stitch receiving light at the same angle there. Nothing shadowed in the measure, stitching everywhere. Stitch and measured spacing, thread at even placing. Even stitch through all the open ground. Even stitch receiving all the sound. Thread and measured distance every place. Even stitch stitch complete. Thread still running, stitch still even. Warp threads held in vertical from beam to beam in place. Nothing shifting from the measured in the settled space. Weft thread carried horizontal through the warp and pass. Loom receiving thread at the same even measured class. Shed opens at the measured interval of quiet beat. Weft arriving through the shed at the same quiet feet. Beater arriving at the cloth at the same counted rate. Quiet loom through all the measured and the steady state. Loom through the open shed. Thread across the spread. Quiet loom in measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft in even ordered line. Quiet loom through all the shine. Quiet loom, the crossing holds its ground. Quiet loom through all the steady sound. Warp and weft in line. Quiet loom through time. Shuttle carrying the weft thread through the measured shed. Nothing dropping from the even path above the spread. Thread arrives at the fell of cloth at even measured place. Beater moving forward at the same consistent pace. Cloth advancing on the beam at the counted rate. Warp threads opening and closing at the measured state. Quiet through the motion of the regular repeat. Loom receiving through the steady and the measured beat. Loom through the open shed. Thread across the spread. Quiet loom in measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft in even ordered line. Quiet loom through all the shine. Quiet loom, the crossing holds its ground. Quiet loom through all the steady sound. Warp tension held consistent from the back beam to the fell. Nothing slacking in the vertical through the measured well. Weft packed at the cloth at the same density throughout. Nothing tired from the early or the later count. Interlacing of the warp and weft continues even. Nothing loose or wide or varied through the measured weaving. Quiet loom receiving thread without acceleration here. Only even repetition through the steady clear. Color of the warp holds through the full extent of beam. Nothing fading in the vertical across the gleam. Weft arriving with the same pale color run to run. Nothing brightening or dimming from the measure one. Cloth accumulating at the fell in ordered row. Nothing bunching at the edge where the weft threads go. Quiet loom through all the steady even measured space. Warp and weft continuing at the settled even pace. Loom through the open shed. Thread across the spread. Quiet loom in measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft in even ordered line. Quiet loom through all the shine. Quiet loom, the crossing holds its ground. Quiet loom through all the steady sound. Warp and tension, weft and crossing. Shed and measured, open, closing. Beater at the settled rhythm. Cloth advancing without forcing. Thread on thread in quiet running. Loom through all the even space. Quiet loom in steady motion. Quiet through the settled place. Quiet loom in measure steady running. Quiet loom increase, pale and flat and flowing through the gathered quiet peace. Length continuing without acceleration here, only even movement through the quiet and the clear. Ribbon through the air, it's settled, measured quiet height, smooth and pale and flowing through the measured settled light. With the ribbon constant at the measured even span, nothing narrowing or widening from the quiet plan. Edges of the ribbon parallel from end to end, nothing wavering or bending at the gentle bend. Pale and neutral color through the length of all the run, nothing brightening or dimming from the start until done. Smooth ribbon through the settled and the measured quiet space, flowing at the even rate from measured starting place. Ribbon through the open air, smooth and even there. Smooth ribbon through the measured lane, smooth ribbon in the quiet terrain, flowing at the even settled pace. Smooth ribbon through the space. Smooth ribbon, the length runs even through. Smooth ribbon, smooth and true. Surface catching light at the consistent angle here, nothing shadowed at a point that registers more clear. Pale reflection from the ribbon surface, flat and spread, nothing concentrated in a brighter overhead. Tension in the ribbon holds an even saddle state, nothing pulling tighter at the middle or the late. Smooth ribbon through the measured space without a break, flowing through the quiet at the even saddle take. Ribbon through the light at the same angle every pass, nothing bending from the path that it received at last. Smooth and pale and flowing in the settled measured run, nothing thicker at the section furthest from the one. Length the ribbon out to the full measured quiet span, nothing interrupting from the even settled plan. Pale and smooth and flowing through the settled open air. Smooth ribbon, filling everywhere. Ribbon through the open air, smooth and even there. Smooth ribbon through the measured lane, smooth ribbon in the quiet terrain, flowing at the even settled pace. Smooth ribbon through the space. Smooth ribbon, the length runs even through. Smooth ribbon, smooth and true. Ribbon at the measured running, edges parallel and even, surface flat without exception, pale and smooth through all the weaving, flowing at the settled right here, nothing pulling from the center. Smooth ribbon through the quiet lane, smooth ribbon through the gentle enter. Smooth ribbon through the measured lane, smooth ribbon in the quiet terrain, flowing at the even settled pace. Smooth ribbon through the space. Smooth ribbon, the length runs even through. Smooth ribbon, smooth and true. Pale and flat and even to the end. Smooth ribbon, ribbon still flowing, smooth and still. Wound in the loosest arrangement of the sphere, fibers gathered without compression anywhere here. Pale and soft and rounded at the outermost of reach, nothing pressed or flattened in the quiet, gentle reach. Warmth within the fiber through the depth of all the wound, nothing sharp or angular arriving in the round. Pale wool through the measured and the settled quiet Fibers soft and winding, nothing sharp or finding. Pale wool in the settled gathered sphere, pale wool receiving all that's quiet here. Fibers wound without compression at the place. Pale wool through the open space. Pale wool, the softness holds throughout. Pale wool spreading out, soft wound through, pale and true. Fibers of the wool arriving at the surface pale, nothing coarse or irregular along the trail. Soft and rounded at the outermost of all the wound warmth retained within the depth without a sharpened sound. Pale and neutral color through the full extent of sphere, nothing brighter at a point or warmer anywhere here. Wool receiving the compression of the settling weight, fibers yielding gently at the measured quiet rate. Wool wound in the loosest arrangement of the sphere, fibers gathered without compression anywhere here. Pale and soft and rounded at the outermost of reach, nothing pressed or flattened in the quiet gentle reach. Warmth within the fiber through the depth of all the wound, nothing sharp or angular arriving in the round. Pale wool through the measured and the settled quiet spread, fibers resting softly without weight upon the head. Fibers soft and winding, nothing sharp or finding. Pale wool in the settled gathered sphere, pale wool receiving all that's quiet here. Fibers wound without compression at the place. Pale wool through the open space. Pale wool, the softness holds throughout. Pale wool spreading out. Surface of the wool yields to the lightest contact made, fibers moving back into position without fade. Pale and soft throughout the depth of all the gathered sphere, nothing firmer at a point or denser anywhere here. Warmth without the weight of any pressing at the top, nothing that accelerates or causes any stop. Pale wool settling in the quiet of the gentle spread, fibers in the measured even depth of overhead. Light falls soft across the surface of the pale wool sphere, diffused and scattered through the fibers everywhere here. Nothing reflecting directly from the rounded form, only soft illumination as the settled norm. Warmth contained within the fiber through the gathered depth, nothing releasing outward in a concentrated breath. Pale wool in the settled and the quiet open spread, fibers resting gently through the measured quiet head. Fibers soft and winding, nothing sharp or finding. Pale wool in the settled gathered sphere, pale wool receiving all that's quiet here. Fibers wound without compression at the place. Pale wool through the open space. Pale wool, the softness holds throughout. Pale wool spreading out. Fibers still wound, wool still pale. Fibers still wound, wool still pale. Steady warmth through all the settled space, steady warmth receiving at the place, heat arriving even through the spread. Steady warmth ahead. Steady warmth, the temperature holds through. Steady warmth, warm and true. Even heat through all the spread. Steady warmth ahead. Warmth arriving at the surface of the settled ground, nothing cooler at a point or varying around. Heat distributed across the full extent of plain, nothing concentrated in a section of the main. Temperature arriving at the even settled rate, nothing rising from the early settled overhead. Heat within the settled layers of the quiet depth. Nothing releasing upward in a concentrated breath. Warmth of the surface from the layers settled there below. Nothing breaking through the even and the measured glow. Temperature consistent at the surface of the plane. Nothing varying from the stardom to the measured main. Steady warmth through all the quiet and the settled spread. Even and consistent warmth from surface unto head. Heat at measured settling. Warmth through even leveling. Steady warmth through all the settled space. Steady warmth receiving at the place. Heat arriving even through the spread. Steady warmth ahead. Steady warmth, the temperature holds through. Steady warmth, warm and true. Warmth contained within the settled in the quiet spread. Nothing escaping faster from the measured overhead. Temperature at equilibrium through all the space. Nothing cooler or more heated at a single place. Heat arriving from the layers of the settled ground. Nothing varying in the temperature around. Steady warmth from edge to edge across the measured plane. Even and consistent warmth through all the settled lanes. Surface of the warmth receives the same consistent glow. Nothing brighter in the temperature of what we know. Heat at the same settled level through the full extent. Nothing rising from the measured or the quietly spent. Warmth within the gathered layers of the quiet here. Nothing releasing to a point that registers more clear. Steady warmth through all the even and the settled space. Heat arriving at the same consistent measured place. Heat at measured settling. Warmth through even leveling. Steady warmth through all the settled space. Steady warmth receiving at the place. Heat arriving even through the spread. Steady warmth ahead. Steady warmth, the temperature holds through. Steady warmth, warm and true. Warmth through all the settled layers. Heat at even distribution. Nothing rising past the surface. Steady warmth through all the mission. Temperature and quiet holding. Nothing varying from center. Steady warmth through all the morning. Steady warmth through quiet enter. Steady warmth through all the settled space. Steady warmth receiving at the place. Heat arriving even through the spread. Steady warmth ahead. Steady warmth, the temperature holds through. Steady warmth, warm and true. Heat continuing through all the lanes. Steady warmth again. Warmth still steady, heat still even. Quilt extending outward from the center of the spread. Squares of color meeting at the sewn and bordered thread. Nothing shifting from the flat and level resting plane. Patches held in quiet at the measured joint domain. Warmth within the depth of quilted layers without weight. Stitching at the border of each square at measured rate. Wide across the surface from the edge to further edge. Wide quilt resting level at the settled quiet ledge. Patches at the border. Stitching holds the order. Wide quilt across the open settled floor. Wide quilt receiving every measured more. Patches joined in quiet, steady row. Wide quilt in the even glow. Wide quilt, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilt spreading out. stitching holds the order. Wide quilts across the open settled floor. Wide quilts receiving every measured more. Patches joined in quiet, steady row. Wide quilts in the even glow. Wide quilts, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilts spreading out. Stitching line between the squares arrives at equal width. Nothing varying in the spacing of the sewn through stitch. Pale and warm and amber through the patches on the plane. Nothing brighter than the even settled measured main. The surface of the quilt yields slightly at the gathered depth. Nothing hard beneath the soft and layered quilted breadth. Squares arriving endlessly in ordered measured spread. Wide quilt through the surface from the front onto the head. Warm tones through the patches of the wide and even spread. Nothing cooler breaking from the amber settled thread. Stitching at the border holds each patch in quiet frame. Nothing coming loose or drifting from the bordered claim. Layers within the quilt remain at settled even depth. Nothing shifting upward through the quiet measured breath. Wide from edge to edge across the full and level plain. Wide quilt open settled through the measured quiet lane. Patches at the border, stitching holds the order. Wide quilts across the open settled floor. Wide quilts receiving every measured more. Patches joined in quiet, steady row. Wide quilts in the even glow. Wide quilts, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilts spreading out. Patches in the border squares, stitching at the even crossing. Nothing breaking from the measured quilt of warmth through all the tossing. Wide across the settled surface, layers deep without the way. Wide quilts through the open morning. Wide quilt through the settled late. Wide quilts across the open settled floor. Wide quilt receiving every measured more. Patches joined in quiet, steady row. Wide quilts in the even glow. Wide quilts, the pattern holds throughout. Wide quilt spreading out. Patches open, patches warm and pale. Wide quilt through the quiet veil. Patches still meeting, quilt still spreading. Warp threads held in vertical from beam to beam in place. Nothing shifting from the measured and the settled space. Weft thread carried horizontal through the warp impasse. Loom receiving thread at the same even measured class. Shed opens at the measured interval of quiet beat. Weft arriving through the shed at the same quiet feet. Beater arriving at the cloth at the same counted rate. Quiet loom through all the measured and the steady state. Loom through the open shed, thread across the spread. Quiet loom and measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft held consistent from the back beam to the fell. Nothing slacking in the vertical through the measured well. Weft packed at the cloth at the same density throughout. Nothing tighter from the early or the later count. Interlacing of the warp and weft continues even. Nothing loose or wide or varied through the measured weaving. Quiet loom receiving thread without acceleration here. Only even repetition through the steady clear. Color of the warp holds through the full extent of beam. Nothing fading in the vertical across the gleam. Weft arriving with the same pale color run to run. Nothing brightening or dimming from the measured one. Cloth accumulating at the fell in ordered row. Nothing bunching at the edge where the weft threads go. Quiet loom through all the steady even measured space. Warp and weft continuing at the settled even pace. Through the open shed, thread across the spread. Quiet loom in measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft in even ordered line. Quiet loom through all the shine. Quiet loom, the crossing holds its ground. Quiet loom through all the steady sound. Warp in tension, weft in crossing, shed and measure, open closing. Beater at the settled rhythm. Cloth advancing without forcing. Thread on threading, quiet running. Loom through all the even space. Quiet loom in steady motion. Quiet through the settled place. Quiet loom. Quiet loom in measured steady running. Quiet loom without event or cunning. Warp and weft in even ordered line. Quiet loom through all the shine. Quiet loom, the crossing holds its ground. Quiet loom through all the steady sound. Thread arriving at the even beat. Quiet loom, complete. Shadows still moving. Still quiet. Wound in the loosest arrangement of the sphere. Fibers gathered without compression anywhere here. Pale and soft and rounded at the outermost of reach. Nothing pressed or flattened in the quiet, gentle reach. Warmth within the fiber through the depth of all the wound. Nothing sharp or angular arriving in the round. Pale wool through the measured and the settled quiet spread. Fibers resting softly without weight upon the head. Fibers soft and winding. Nothing sharp or finding. Pale wool in the settled gathered sphere. Pale wool receiving all that's quiet here. Fibers wound without compression at the place. Pale wool through the open space. Pale wool, the softness holds throughout. Pale wool, spreading now. Soft wound through. Pale and true. Fibers of the wool arriving at the surface. Pale, nothing coarse or irregular along the trail. Soft and rounded at the outermost of all the wound. Warmth retained within the depth without a sharpened sound. Pale and neutral color through the full extent of sphere. Nothing brighter at a point or warmer anywhere here. Wool receiving the compression of the settling weight. Fibers yielding gently at the measured quiet rate. Wolf wound in the loosest arrangement of the sphere. Fibers gathered without compression anywhere contact made, fibers moving back into position without fade, pale and soft throughout the depth of all the gathered sphere. Nothing firmer at a point or denser anywhere here. Wands without the weight of any pressing at the top. Nothing that accelerates or causes any stop. Pale, settling in the quiet of the gentle spread. Fibers in the measured even depth of overhead. Light falls soft across the surface of the pale wool sphere, diffused and scattered through the fibers everywhere here. Nothing reflecting directly from the rounded form, only soft illumination as a settled norm. Warmth contained within the fiber through the gathered depth. Nothing releasing outward in a concentrated breath. Pale wool in the saddle and the quiet open spread. Fibers resting gently through the measured quiet head. Fibers